Good evening, all, and welcome back to Eerie Hour. Tonight, we are stepping into the bright corridors and crowded terminals of the world's busiest airports with 9 of the most unsettling true airport horror stories. These frightening tales come straight from travelers, flight crews, and airport workers who met predators hiding behind uniforms, polite smiles, and fake badges. Every story has been carefully checked through police files, witness accounts, and security footage, showing how these busy public places can turn into hunting grounds for those who know how to take advantage. What makes these stories especially chilling is how real they are. Every detail has been confirmed by multiple sources, proving that the biggest dangers often hide in plain sight among thousands of people rushing to catch flights. If you're new to Eerie Hour, make sure to subscribe for the most spine-tingling, true crime, and horror content that reveals the darkness hiding in everyday life. Turn on that notification bell so you never miss when we uncover the predators living among us. Now let us enter the terminals and departure gates where your next flight could turn into your worst nightmare and where that stranger offering help might not want you to reach your destination safely. Jessica Martinez held her laptop bag close as she hurried through the long halls of Istanbul Ataturk Airport. Her business meeting in Dubai had run 3 hours late, and now her connecting flight to New York was boarding in less than 40 minutes. At 28, she had flown to many countries for her job, but never had she felt this kind of nervous panic rushing through her as she tried to find her way in the unfamiliar maze of terminals. The airport seemed strange at this hour. Most of the shops were closed, metal shutters pulled down like blind eyes. The usual crowds had thinned to a few tired travelers sleeping on chairs. Bright fluorescent lights left sharp shadows that stretched and moved with every step she took. Her heels clicked on the polished floor in rhythm with her racing heart. Jessica was known for being on time and organized. Her co-workers often joked she could handle any airport, even blindfolded, but tonight was different. The stress of missing her flight and spending another night away from home clouded her normally sharp thinking. She needed to get through customs, pick up her checked bag, pass security again, and somehow reach gate B47 before the doors closed. As she turned a corner near customs, a man in what looked like an airport uniform stepped toward her with a friendly smile. He was in his early 50s, with gray at his temples and kind brown eyes behind wire glasses. His navy jacket showed an official-looking badge, and he carried himself with confidence, as if he belonged here. "Excuse me, miss," he said in accented English, his voice calm and sure. "I noticed you seem in a rush. Are you having trouble with your flight?" Jessica stopped, still catching her breath from rushing. "Yes, actually. My flight to New York boards in about 35 minutes, and I still need to go through customs and security. I don't think I'll make it." The man nodded with sympathy, his face showing concern. "Yes, that is very close indeed, but you're in luck. My name is Marcus. I work in passenger services here. I can get you through faster. We have special ways for passengers like you, with very short connections." Relief spread through Jessica like cool water. "Really? That would be amazing. I was starting to panic." Marcus pointed to a side hallway she hadn't noticed before, leading away from the main customs area. "Of course, this is exactly what we are here for. Follow me and we'll take care of it quickly. This way goes to our express line." As they walked, Marcus made light conversation, asking about her work in Dubai and commenting on how stressful delays can be. He was polite yet professional, just what she expected from airport staff. He seemed to know the layout well, guiding her through narrow service corridors with ease. "I've worked here 12 years, he explained. "You learn the shortcuts that save passengers precious minutes." But the corridor stretched on longer than Jessica thought. The walls were plain white concrete, the lights dimmer than the main halls. She noticed fewer and fewer people around. A quiet voice inside her whispered something wasn't right, but she brushed it aside. Marcus seemed trustworthy, and she was desperate to catch her flight. "Is it much farther?" she asked, glancing nervously at her watch. 28 minutes until boarding." "Just around the corner," Marcus said smoothly. "We'll have you through very soon." But when they turned, Jessica saw they were in what looked like a maintenance area. The walls held electrical panels and storage lockers. The air smelled of strong cleaner mixed with something she couldn't place. There were no customs desks, no other travelers, no signs of security at all. "I think there's been a mistake," Jessica said slowly, stopping in her tracks. "This doesn't look like a processing area." Marcus stopped and turned toward her. The friendly face she had trusted shifted. His smile stayed, but his eyes grew cold. Jessica's stomach dropped. "There is no mistake," he said, his voice harder now. "You are exactly where I want you to be." Fear shot through Jessica like ice water. Every instinct screamed danger. The long corridor stretched out empty in both directions. The main terminal was far away, blocked by thick concrete. "Who are you?" she demanded, stepping back. "You don't work here, do you?" Marcus laughed, the sound bouncing off the narrow walls. "Oh, but I do work here. Just not the way you think. I work very hard to find travelers like you. Businesswomen, always rushing, always trusting a helpful uniform." Jessica's mind raced. She could try to run, but Marcus stood between her and the way back. She could push past him, but he was bigger. Her phone showed no signal here, and shouting felt useless. "What do you want?" she asked, forcing her voice steady. Marcus stepped closer. "What I want is for you to see how easy it was to fool you. You trusted me because I looked official, because I spoke like I belonged. How many others do you think made that same mistake?" His words made Jessica's blood turn cold. He had done this before. How many had followed him into these hidden halls and never come back? Before Marcus could move closer, the sound of footsteps echoed behind Jessica. Both froze. Voices in Turkish grew louder as a security patrol came near. Marcus's calm mask cracked. "Security patrol," he muttered. "They're not supposed to be here yet." Jessica didn't wait. She screamed as loud as she could, her voice bouncing off the walls. The footsteps quickened, voices shouting in response. Marcus glared at her with anger, and maybe a hint of respect. "You're smarter than most," he said darkly. Then he spun and vanished into a side passage, disappearing into the maze. Moments later, 3 real airport security guards appeared, their uniforms authentic, their faces worried. Jessica collapsed, shaking as the adrenaline drained away. "Miss, are you okay?" one asked in accented English. "We heard shouting." Between gasps, Jessica told them everything. The guards' faces grew grim as she described Marcus and how he had led her away. "This man is not one of us," the lead officer said firmly. "We've been searching for someone matching that description. Other travelers vanished after being seen with him. This is the first time someone escaped to tell us how he operates." As they guided Jessica back to the terminal, he explained that 3 other passengers had gone missing in the last 6 months after being seen with a man like Marcus. All were solo travelers with tight connections, all last caught on camera, looking hurried and stressed. "Your account will help us warn others and improve our security," the officer assured her. But Jessica had indeed missed her flight. She looked at the board. Her plane to New York was already leaving the gate. Normally, missing such an important flight would have made her panic about lost meetings and angry clients. But tonight, she felt only relief to be safe. At the security office, Jessica gave her statement. Officers promised to check camera footage to track Marcus and stop him from targeting more victims. They booked her into the airport hotel and rescheduled her flight for the morning. Alone in her room at 3 a.m., Jessica lay awake, her mind replaying every detail. Missing her flight had likely saved her life. She did not want to imagine what Marcus had planned for her in those hidden corridors. She thought about how perfectly he had targeted her weakness, her rush, her stress, her trust in uniforms. His act had been carefully built to take advantage of exactly that. The officer's words echoed in her mind. Other passengers had not been so lucky. Predators study their prey, and sometimes the most dangerous person in an airport is the one who seems most eager to help. So Marcus, wherever you are, still hiding in the airport shadows with your fake badge and practice smile, still seeking stressed travelers with false kindness, may we never meet again. Jake Holloway was already tired when Flight 9001 landed at Incheon International Airport just after midnight. The 22-year-old computer science student had just spent a month backpacking across Southeast Asia on a budget, and now the last part of his trip meant an 18-hour layover in Seoul. When he booked the ticket, the long stop didn't sound too bad. He had pictured trying street food or visiting a palace. But now, walking into the massive terminal, his body ached for sleep. The airport looked like something from a science fiction movie. Wide glass ceilings stretched over gleaming walkways. Most shops were closed, and recorded announcements echoed through the space before fading into silence so complete he could hear the low hum of moving walkways. A few scattered travelers slept across rows of seats, faces hidden by hoodies and blankets. Jake checked the screens. His flight to Los Angeles wouldn't board until 6:05 p.m., 17 hours and 43 minutes away. With a tired sigh, he adjusted his worn bag and followed signs toward the public lounges, hoping to find a quiet place to rest. Halfway toward Terminal B, a young woman about his age walked beside him. She wore black jeans, white sneakers, and an oversized denim jacket that looked too big for her. Her copper-colored hair was tied in a loose braid down her back, and she rolled a small silver suitcase behind her. "Long layover?" she asked in calm, steady English. Her tone was casual, almost rehearsed. Jake managed a polite smile. 18 hours. I'm deciding if I should try to find an airport hotel or just crash on a bench. She laughed softly. Same problem. I'm Elena. My flight to Madrid isn't until tomorrow evening. She offered her hand. Jake shook it. Jake, nice to meet you. They reached a split where one hallway led toward immigration in the city, while the other kept going deeper into the secured transit zone. Jake hesitated. A part of him wanted fresh air, real food, maybe a hostel bed. But another part didn't want the hassle of paperwork or the risk of missing his connection. Elena seemed to sense his doubt. The night buses into Seoul leave every 40 minutes. The last one back comes at 3 a.m. If we miss it, we'll need to pass immigration during the morning rush. Safer to stay inside. She said it with the certainty of someone who had already studied the schedules. Jake nodded slowly. You make a good point. Staying inside it is. They walked on together, the terminal getting quieter with every moving walkway they passed. Elena pointed out free water stations, the little 24-hour store, and even a meditation room tucked behind frosted glass near Gate 15. Jake's tiredness began to fade. She seemed sharp, ready for anything, and friendly without being overbearing. By the time they reached Gate C23, they found a cluster of reclining lounge chairs facing a giant wall of windows that looked out over the dark runways. Only one traveler was asleep there, headphones on and a jacket pulled over his face. Elena dropped her bag at the far end and stretched out across a chair like a cat taking over a sunny spot. Prime real estate, she said. Grab one before someone else shows up. Jake sank into the next recliner. The padded leather eased his aching shoulders. For the first time, he felt a spark of calm. They spoke in low voices. Classes, travel disasters, how much they both hated airline food. Elena told him about her childhood near Valencia, her dream of becoming an aeronautical engineer, and her fascination with airports as tiny models of the world. At 2 a.m., the overhead lights dimmed. A cleaning machine rumbled slowly down the concourse, its driver half asleep. Jake's eyelids drooped. He muttered about trying to sleep and set his phone alarm for 8 a.m. Plenty of time before the morning crowds. Elena pulled out a bottle of water from her bag. Drink this before you knock out. Jet lag hits harder if you're dry. Jake thanked her, drank half the bottle, and leaned back. The last thing he heard before drifting off was Elena humming a tune he couldn't place. A loud metallic clang snapped him awake. The concourse was almost pitch dark. Only faint blue strips glowed along the floor. Jake sat up, dazed. His phone said 3:47 a.m. Barely 2 hours had passed. Elena's chair was empty. The backpacker nearby was gone too, but his blanket was tossed on the floor. Jake stood, stretched his stiff legs, and looked around. The convenience store was shut, its gate rolled down, the lights off. In the distance, an electric cart beeped and then faded. A soft voice came from behind a pillar near the restrooms. "Told you he'd wake soon." "Hush! We still have time." Jake's skin prickled. He stepped closer. Elena appeared from the shadows, phone pressed to her ear. She flinched when she noticed him, covering the mic. "You scared me," she whispered. "Could you wait over there? I need to finish this call." Even in the faint blue light, he saw her eyes sharp and restless. He lifted his hands and stepped back. Turning, he noticed the convenience store gate wasn't fully locked. The padlock hung open, unlatched. His stomach turned. He thought about the missing traveler. Had Elena lured him away, or slipped out herself in return? The questions tangled with the fog in his head. He tried to recall the taste of the water she gave him. Had it been odd, bitter? He wasn't sure. A sudden cough echoed from inside the store. Jake spun around. Through the slats, he saw movement. A figure crouched behind the counter. "Elena," he called. No reply. He looked toward the pillar. She was gone. The floor lights flickered, plunging everything into near blackness for a breathless second before buzzing back on. Elena now stood right in front of him, less than an arm's reach away. "Go back to your seat," she said softly. Her accent seemed heavier, her voice colder. "You need rest." Jake stepped back. "Who's in the store?" "I heard something." "No one," she said too fast. He looked again, but it was still inside. Had he imagined it? His head swam. His pulse thundered. "Elena, what's going on? Did you put something in that water?" She smiled faintly, but her eyes stayed hard. "Only electrolytes." "You look dehydrated." He noticed she now carried both her roller bag and backpack, zipped tight. Her shoes had changed too. White sneakers replaced by black boots. The floor lights dimmed more. A clatter echoed from a distant corridor, followed by a dull thud. Elena's eyes flicked toward it. "We should move," she murmured almost to herself, then grabbed Jake's arm. "Come now." Her grip was startlingly strong. "Why?" he demanded. "Because if we stay, security will find us. That would be very bad for both of us." Jake yanked free. "Security? What did you do?" Her face hardened. "I saved you from sleeping on a dirty floor. That's all you need to know." Sirens wailed in the distance, bouncing eerily through the empty halls. Red strobes flashed along the ceiling. Elena inhaled sharply. Too late. She bolted toward an emergency exit marked, Restricted area, authorized personnel only. Jake hesitated, then chased after her, instinct screaming not to stay alone. She swiped a key card, shoved the door open, and led him into a stark service hallway. The light was harsh white now. Bare pipes ran across concrete walls. The air smelled like detergent and jet fuel. Her boots echoed as she moved quickly ahead. "Where are we going?" Jake shouted. She didn't slow. "Quiet. Cameras are thin here, but sound travels." They passed doors marked electrical substation and storage. At a third unmarked door, Elena tapped her card and pushed it open. Inside was a windowless room about the size of a shipping container, lit by a single bulb. Two open suitcases sat on a folding table, packed with electronics, hard drives, tiny cameras, networking gear. Printed photos of travelers were spread across the surface. Candid terminal shots, passport scans, close-ups and boarding lines. Jake's knees nearly gave way. One photo showed his own face from check-in earlier. Elena closed the door behind them and just watched his reaction for a moment. Then she spoke calmly. "Jake, listen. You've stumbled into something you don't understand. I don't want to harm you, but I need to finish before the next patrol passes through." He stared at the photos. "You're stalking people. Identity theft?" "Nothing so simple," she replied. "These passengers are couriers. They carry data or devices across borders. I intercept, copy, and return it before anyone notices." Jake shook his head. "That's espionage." Elena tilted hers. "Freelance intelligence work. Governments, companies, private clients. They all pay." The sirens grew louder, rattling through the ducts. Elena typed rapidly on a slim laptop, code racing across the screen. "You drugged me," Jake accused, his chest icy. "Just a mild sedative," she said without looking up. "I needed time. You were good cover. Two students stuck on a layover looks innocent." His dizziness surged. Fear outweighed anger. "What happens to me?" She paused. "That depends. Sit quietly, let me finish, then walk back and act like you slept. Or try to interfere. Then I can't promise your safety." Footsteps thundered outside. A man barked orders in Korean. Elena snapped the laptop shut, swept the photos into a leather folder, and shoved it at Jake. "Hold this. If they stop us, say you found it in the restrooms." Before he could object, she pushed aside a ceiling panel, revealing a crawl space. "Up," she whispered. Jake froze. The gap looked far too tight, but the footsteps outside ended his hesitation. He scrambled up the shelving into the dark. Elena followed, sliding the panel back just as the door burst open. Through thin cracks, Jake saw two guards sweep the room, flashlights slicing across the gear. One muttered into a radio. After long, tense minutes, they left. In the crawl space, Elena switched on a small penlight. Dust floated in the air. A tight tunnel stretched above the hallway toward the airport's observation deck. "We crawl about 50 meters, drop into a staff lounge, change clothes and blend in with the morning crew," she whispered. Jake's mind spun. The folder in his hand felt like it was burning. "Why pull me into this?" Elena's voice turned softer. "Because you remind me of my brother, curious, trusting. If you do what I say, you walk out alive and free. If the police catch us, I cannot say the same." Jake's chest tightened. "You expect me to trust you after you drugged me?" "No," she said flatly. "I expect you to take the choice that keeps you breathing." Cold logic cut through the panic. She was right. He followed her through the narrow, hot duct. Metal scraped his backpack. His palms slicked with sweat. At last, they stopped above a ceiling panel. Voices drifted from below. Airport workers laughing, making coffee. Elena counted under her breath, then gently pushed the panel aside. She slipped down without a sound, waving Jake to follow. The lounge was empty. Lockers stood along one wall beside a rack of neon safety vests. Elena tossed him a vest and a cap with the airport logo. "Uniform," she said. "You're now a ground operations intern on night shift." She twisted her hair into a bun, pulled on a vest, and scanned the schedule pinned nearby. "Next shift briefing in 12 minutes, 2 halls over. If we walk in like we belong, no one will stop us." Jake's pulse hammered. "I don't belong here. I just want to leave." "And you will," Elena answered, adjusting his collar like a brisk older sister. "After the meeting, the workers scatter. You drop the vest in a bin and walk back to the public side. Everyone will think you left during the alarm." "And you?" he asked. She gave a faint smile, real but tinged with sadness. "Different exit." They stepped into the hall. The alarms were gone now, only faint chatter left. The lockdown felt like it was easing. The airport stirred as if stretching before dawn. At the briefing room, Elena melted into a cluster of vest-wearing workers. Jake let himself be carried forward by the crowd, mind spinning. When the briefing ended, he did exactly as she told him. No one stopped him. He slipped away, dropped the vest in a cart, and headed back toward Gate C-23. The recliner area looked the same, blankets tossed aside, dim emergency lights still glowing. He sank into a chair, body shaking all over. His phone read 5:11 a.m., 5 hours until boarding. He opened the leather folder. Inside lay a single photo, his own boarding pass barcode, and a handwritten note. "Curiosity is dangerous at airports. Stay awake. Stay alive." Jake stared until the letters blurred. She had used him, yes, but also saved him. The weight of both truths pressed on him. At 6 a.m., the lights brightened and travelers returned, oblivious to what had happened in the night. Jake joined the flow of passengers with only his bag and a secret he could never explain. When his flight rose into the sunrise, he watched the airport fade below and whispered at the glass, "Elena, wherever you are, let us never meet again." 3. Lisa Chen had never felt more drained in her 34 years. A week-long cruise through the Caribbean with her 9-year-old daughter, Emma, should have left her refreshed. But single parenthood meant that even vacations demanded constant watchfulness. When their plane touched down at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport at 11:47 p.m., Lisa wanted only to get their luggage, find their car in long-term parking, and drive the 2 hours back to Austin. Emma leaned against her, clutching the stuffed dolphin bought on the ship. Her blonde hair stuck out in tufts. Her Disney princess pajama pants creased from the flight. Lisa had long ago accepted that comfort mattered more than looks when traveling with a tired child. The terminal felt heavy at this late hour. Shops were closed, their gates reflecting harsh fluorescent light that made everyone look pale. Passengers from their flight spread out, businessmen hurrying to rides, families moving slowly toward baggage claim. Lisa guided Emma down to Carousel 7, where the screen showed their flight. The space buzzed with the usual late-night mess. People glued to phones, couples arguing over parking fees, older travelers sitting and waiting. Lisa found 2 seats near the carousel and helped Emma into one. "Mama, I'm thirsty," Emma muttered, rubbing her eyes. Lisa spotted a vending machine nearby. She hesitated, then decided it was safe in such a public place. "Stay here, sweetheart. Don't move. I'll get you water." As she fed dollars into the machine, a man walked up to Emma. Lisa caught him from the side of her vision. Tall, early 40s, in khakis and a polo. He looked like any other dad picking up family. His sandy hair and calm stride gave him an easy confidence. Lisa snatched the water and hurried back, reaching them just as he sat down next to her daughter. "Hi there," he said with a pleasant smile. "I just noticed how patient you've been with her. That's impressive parenting." Lisa's instincts flared, but his tone stayed polite. Travel often brought out kindness and stress alike, and yes, she had worked hard keeping Emma calm during delays and turbulence. "Thank you," she said carefully, placing herself between him and Emma. "It's been a long day." "I can tell," he said with sympathy. "You were on flight 447 from Miami, right? Seats 12A and 12B?" Lisa froze. She had never told him their flight number. He could not have known their seats unless he had been watching. The baggage area swirled with people from several flights, dozens moving about. "How do you know our seats?" she asked, pulling Emma close. His smile stayed in place. "Oh, I was a few rows behind you. I remembered because she behaved so well even when that turbulence hit. You handled it great." Emma blinked at her mother in confusion. Lisa searched her memory for passengers near them, but the plane had been full. She had focused only on Emma. His story made some sense. "That's kind of you," Lisa answered, still uneasy. The carousel screeched to life. Travelers closed in around it. The man, he called himself David, kept talking easily about Miami's cruise port and traveling with kids. "So where are you headed now?" he asked. "Long-term parking?" "We're driving home," Lisa said vaguely. "Austin, right? About 2 hours?" he pressed. Her pulse jumped. She had never mentioned Austin or the drive. Emma had been half asleep the whole flight, and Lisa had kept her nose in a book. "I don't recall saying that," she said. David laughed, though it sounded practiced now. "Really? I thought you told the flight attendant. Airplane talk carries." Luggage thumped onto the belt. Lisa stepped closer, using it as an excuse to move. She stood where she could spot their bags while keeping Emma nearby. David followed. "Let me grab them for you," he offered. "2 bags can be a lot after a trip." Lisa's stomach dropped. He knew exactly how many she had checked. 2, one large, one smaller. She had never mentioned that detail. The truth hit hard. He knew too much to be casual. "I can handle it," she said firmly. Her phone buzzed. As she checked the screen, David leaned in as though to peek. She angled it away. It was a text from her sister asking about their arrival. "Everything all right?" David asked smoothly. "You seem tense." "I'm fine," Lisa said, sharper now. Emma tugged at her sleeve. "Mama, I need the bathroom." Lisa's thoughts raced. The restrooms were around a corner, away from the crowd. She didn't want to leave the bags or take Emma somewhere quiet with David nearby. "Can you wait a few minutes, sweetheart?" Lisa asked. "Our bags should be out soon." David had overheard. The family restroom was just around the corner. He said he could watch the luggage if Lisa wanted to take Emma. At first, the offer sounded polite, but Lisa's gut told her it was wrong. No real stranger would suggest guarding bags for someone they had just met, especially when the bags might have valuables inside. "That is not needed," Lisa said. "We will wait." She pulled out her phone and acted like she was making a call, hoping David would get the message and leave them alone. But he stayed close, talking about other travelers and their bags. His comments grew strange, noting which bag belonged to who, guessing items inside he should not know, pointing out details about people that showed he had been studying the crowd for a while. When their first suitcase finally came down the carousel, Lisa felt relief wash over her. She could grab it and head to the garage. But before she could reach it, David stepped in. "Let me help you with that," he said, lifting the suitcase quickly. "Please put it down," Lisa said sharply. "I can carry my own bag." David's smile stayed, but something cold flashed in his eyes. "I am only being nice. No reason to be rude." People nearby turned to look, hearing the tension in Lisa's voice. She realized this was her chance to bring attention to him. "Sir, I do not know you, and I did not ask you for help," she said loudly enough for the area to hear. "Please leave us alone." A security guard watching baggage claim walked over. David put the suitcase down and lifted his hands. Sorry, he told the guard. "I was only helping." "Nothing bad." The guard, a woman in her 50s who looked used to dealing with airport trouble, glanced between them. "Is there a problem here?" she asked. "This man has been following us since we got off the plane," Lisa explained. "He knows details about our flight and our trip that I never told him. He even offered to watch our luggage while we went to the restroom." The guard's face turned serious. "Sir, I need to see your boarding pass and your ID." David's confidence slipped. "I threw my boarding pass away on the plane, but I have my ID." He fumbled with his wallet. "Which flight were you on tonight?" the guard asked. "Flight 447 from Miami," he answered fast. "And your seat number?" she asked. David paused. "I don't remember. It was near the back." The guard turned to Lisa. "You said he knew your seat numbers?" "Yes," Lisa said. "He told us we were in 12A and 12B, which is correct. He also knew we had 2 checked bags and that we live in Austin, about 2 hours away. I never shared any of that." The guard's radio crackled. She spoke quietly into it, then came back. "Sir, you'll need to come with us to answer some questions. Ma'am, please stay here." David's smile dropped completely. "This is crazy. I was just being polite. You're all paranoid." As the guard touched his arm to guide him away, David turned and looked straight at Lisa. "You and your daughter have a safe drive back to Austin. I hope you make it home." The meaning was clear. Even in public, with guards around, he was letting her know he had details about them. Lisa clutched Emma close as 2 more guards came to take David away. After several minutes, the first guard came back. "Ma'am, we checked the passenger list for Flight 447. There's no one named David who looks like him. That means he was not on your flight at all. He was following you on purpose. Do you know how he might have learned about your trip?" Lisa shook her head, her mind racing. "I booked everything online with my card. We didn't talk to anyone about our plans." The guards said they would check security cameras to see how long David had been watching them, and promised an escort to their car. She also suggested filing a police report when they reached Austin. As they walked to the parking garage with the escort, Emma asked in a sleepy voice, "Mama, why was that man so interested in us?" Lisa squeezed her hand. "I don't know, sweetheart, but we're safe now." The walk to the car felt endless. Every corner looked threatening. Every sound made Lisa turn. The guards stayed until they were inside, doors locked, then left. During the long drive home, Lisa called her sister, her ex-husband, and finally the Austin police. The officer explained that people like David often watch airports for single parents, especially women traveling with children who look tired and distracted. These men study flight lists, social media, even frequent flyer accounts, the officer said. Sometimes they know your schedule better than you. Lisa thought back and realized she had posted photos from their cruise on Instagram, including shots with times that showed when they had left Miami. She had also booked the tickets with her flyer account, which could have leaked more information. By the time they got home at 3:17 a.m., Lisa promised herself she would change all her online privacy settings and be far more careful about what she shared. The idea that David might have tracked them for days was terrifying. Emma fell asleep in the back seat, and Lisa carried her inside, checking the locks twice before falling onto the couch. The stuffed dolphin Emma won on the cruise was left behind in the car. What should have been a happy trip had ended with the scary truth that danger could follow you even into busy, secure places like airports. For weeks after, Lisa caught herself scanning faces in public, searching for David. The whole event broke her belief that airports were safe spaces with constant protection. Later, she learned David had been arrested before in Houston and Phoenix for similar behavior. He had never hurt anyone, but his habit of watching mothers and kids showed a dangerous pattern that could have turned violent. Lisa never found out how he knew so much about their trip, but she realized that privacy was almost impossible in today's world. Someone determined could pull together enough details to create a clear picture of your life. So to David, wherever you are, still pretending to be friendly while tracking families, you can stay away from us, and may our paths never cross again. Thomas Brennan had never felt more stress in his 41 years. The merger deal he was flying to present in Chicago would either save his firm or start its slow collapse. His laptop bag held 3 years of numbers, reports, and strategies that could change a struggling factory company into a strong regional player. His meeting was set for 9 a.m. sharp, and his first flight from Phoenix was supposed to get him there just in time to prepare and deliver what could be the best talk of his career. But now, staring at the departure board at 6:47 p.m., Thomas saw the word delayed next to Flight 1847 to Chicago. Mechanical problems had grounded the plane. He would now miss his connection and not reach Chicago until long after his meeting was over. His phone buzzed with worried texts from his business partner as the weight of months of work slipping away hit him. The gate area filled with angry voices as airline workers repeated the same lines about rebooking and hotel vouchers. Thomas had already called the client, only to hear their tone grow colder with each minute. They made it clear there would be no reschedule. They were choosing between two firms, and if he could not be there on time, the job would go to the other team. Now standing in a long rebooking line that stretched around the terminal, Thomas felt hopeless. Just then, a woman in a neat navy suit walked up to him. She had a badge on a lanyard, stood with the calm air of someone who worked in airports often, and carried a tablet as she scanned the line of upset passengers. Her auburn hair was pulled into a tight bun, and she looked directly at Thomas. "Excuse me, sir," she said. "I heard your call about the meeting in Chicago. I work in customer relations, and we may have a special solution for travelers in your position." Thomas looked up from his place in line, a spark of hope rising in his chest. Really, the gate agent had already said there were no seats on any flights tonight. The woman gave him a kind smile. "That is the normal answer when the system shows nothing open. But we keep a few emergency seats aside for business travelers with important meetings. I am Rebecca Martinez from Passenger Services, and I handle these urgent cases." She held out her badge, showing a photo with what looked like official airline details. The ID looked real, with the right feel and shine that reflected light like it should. Rebecca spoke with the calm authority of someone who knew airline rules inside and out. "The thing is," she said, "these special seats cannot be booked through the usual system. We have to process them from a different terminal in our operations section. It takes about 15 minutes, but I can get you a seat on the 8:30 flight to Chicago. You would arrive by 11 p.m. Too late for tonight's meeting, but you could reschedule it for the morning." Thomas felt a wave of relief. A one-day delay was annoying, but not disastrous. His client had only said the decision would be made by the end of the week. A morning meeting could still save the deal. "That would be great," Thomas said. "What do I need to do?" Rebecca pointed to a hallway away from the busy gate. "Follow me. The special terminal is in our operations area. We will have you booked and at your gate soon." As they walked, Rebecca asked questions about his trip, nodding when he talked about the importance of the meeting. She seemed to understand the struggles of business travelers and talked about airline rules in a way that sounded confident and helpful. These emergency bookings started after too many business travelers missed major meetings because of delays, she explained. The airline knows it costs more to lose corporate clients than it does to hold back a few seats. The hall they went down grew quieter as they walked. Shops and restaurants gave way to staff areas, storage spaces, and doors to maintenance. Thomas noticed there were fewer travelers now, but Rebecca moved with confidence, like she knew exactly where she was leading him. "Is it much further?" Thomas asked, checking his watch. He needed time to rebook if he was going to make that 8:30 flight. "Just around the corner," Rebecca said smoothly. The operations area is kept away from passengers for security reasons. They turned into a part of the terminal Thomas had never been in. The walls were bare, the lights dimmer, and the carpet was replaced with hard tile. Signs on the walls clearly read "Restricted Access." Rebecca's badge seemed to be her key. "Wait," Thomas said, slowing down. "Are passengers even allowed in here? Those signs say staff only." Rebecca stopped and faced him. For the first time, her sure tone showed a tiny break. "Passengers can enter if guided by airline staff. Otherwise, how would we do emergency rebookings?" The words made sense, but her tone carried something new, an edge of pressure. Thomas realized they had been walking for 15 minutes and had not seen even one other airline worker. "I think I should head back and try the normal rebooking desk," Thomas said, turning to leave. "This does not feel right." Rebecca grabbed his arm quickly. "Don't be silly. We are almost there. If you go back, you will surely miss the 8:30 flight, and the next isn't until tomorrow afternoon." Her grip was strong, her tone more commanding than helpful. Thomas's instincts screamed danger, but she was also right. Missing this flight might cost him the meeting. "Look," Rebecca said, letting go of his arm with a forced smile. "I understand your nerves. Passengers don't usually see operations areas, but this is a special case. Special cases need special handling." They reached a locked door marked "Authorized Access." Rebecca swiped her badge and the lock clicked open. Inside was a plain, windowless room with buzzing fluorescent lights. Several desks with computers lined the space, but there were no workers in sight. "Where is everyone?" Thomas asked, his unease rising. "Minimal night shift," Rebecca explained, typing quickly at one of the terminals. "Most staff works daytime, but these computers are always on for cases like yours." She typed fast, glancing at him now and then. The monitor faced away, so he could not see the screen. After a few minutes, she frowned. "There's a small issue," she said. "The system wants more proof of your payment. I'll need your credit card and driver's license to finish." Thomas froze. No real airline employee had ever asked for that. The request broke every travel rule he knew. "I am not giving you my card," he said. "Real agents process payments directly, not by taking customers' cards." Rebecca's smile vanished. Her face turned cold. "Then you have a problem? This is the only way you're flying tonight." Thomas now saw it clearly. Rebecca was no airline worker. The badge was fake, her knowledge rehearsed, not lived, and he was trapped in a hidden room with someone dangerous. "Who are you?" he demanded, stepping back toward the door. Rebecca laughed, sharp and empty of warmth. "Someone who sees chances and takes them. Desperate travelers are easy. You followed me because you wanted to believe I could help." Thomas lunged for the door, but Rebecca moved in the way. She was smaller, but the narrow room gave her the advantage. "What do you want?" he asked, mind racing. "Your cards, your ID, and the date on that laptop," Rebecca said flatly. "Business travelers carry the best prizes. Corporate cards with high limits, access to company funds, client files that can be sold." Thomas's stomach turned. His laptop held not just his slides, but private financial data, competitor analysis, and sensitive emails. In the wrong hands, they could ruin deals. "You are insane if you think I'll give you anything," he said. Rebecca pulled out a small card reader. "You will, sooner or later. We're cut off here. You'll understand eventually." As if on cue, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Thomas felt hope, thinking it was real security, but Rebecca smirked. "My partner," she said, "in case you plan to resist." The steps stopped at the door. Instead of her partner coming in, radio chatter filled the air. Real security voices. Rebecca's face faltered for the first time. "They are not supposed to patrol here yet," she whispered. Thomas shouted, "Help! Somebody help me!" The voices outside stopped instantly. Rebecca cursed and hurried toward a second door, an emergency exit Thomas hadn't seen. "This isn't over," she hissed. "I know your name, your company, your client." This was just one missed chance. The main door burst open as Rebecca disappeared. Two airport guards rushed in, weapons drawn. "Sir, are you okay?" one asked. "We got reports of strange activity in this area." Thomas dropped into a chair, his legs weak. "A woman pretending to be airline staff led me here. She said she could rebook me, but then demanded my credit cards and ID." The guards traded grim looks. "Can you describe her?" the senior one asked. As Thomas gave Rebecca's details, the guards explained they had been tracking someone using fake badges to trick stranded travelers. Three other travelers had already told security about being approached in the same way. But this was the first time someone had actually been brought to this hidden room. The area was supposed to be protected. One officer pointed out that either Rebecca had been helped by someone inside, or she was using a very advanced fake badge system. Thomas finally understood just how close he had been to serious danger. She had not just wanted his credit cards and ID. She had picked him because of the sensitive business files he was carrying. It was not random theft. It was corporate spying carried out under the disguise of an airport scam. When security checked further, they confirmed Rebecca's badge looked completely real. Without scanning it electronically, no one would have been able to tell the difference. Video recordings also revealed her walking up to several stranded travelers during the night, each time focusing on those who seemed frustrated or desperate. Thomas did manage to get on a flight the following morning, but the meeting he had prepared for was pushed back by 36 hours. Luckily, when he explained honestly what had happened at the airport, his client in Chicago agreed to extend the deadline, and in the end, his firm still won the deal. Even so, the event changed the way Thomas handled airports forever. The report written by the security officers confirmed Rebecca had escaped through the emergency exit, which led to a nearby parking garage. Cameras caught her entering a car, but the license plates had been covered. She was never found, and investigators later believed she had already moved on to other airports, looking for more victims. For weeks afterward, Thomas felt himself studying every airline employee who came near him, double-checking their IDs and questioning their authority, even when the request seemed ordinary. He could not shake the fact that people could fake their way into looking so official and go completely unnoticed. When the wider investigation came out, it showed that Rebecca's work was not just about stealing from travelers. She had been gathering company secrets from professionals for months. She used the fake booking stories to get her hands on valuable files and then sold them to rivals or even foreign agents. Thomas never found out whether she was doing this alone or if she was part of something much bigger. But what he learned was that airports, no matter how strict the security appeared, were still places where criminals carefully study travelers the same way companies studied their customers. So to Rebecca, wherever you are now, still walking terminal hallways with that flawless fake badge and smooth words, preying on travelers with your tricks, know this: your disguise will not protect you forever. Let us never meet again. Should music Patricia Williams had never felt this drained in all of her 29 years working as a nurse. The last 3 weeks had blended together in a blur of endless shifts at Chicago General Hospital, where flu season and a serious lack of staff had stretched every doctor and nurse past their limits. Finally sliding into seat 14A on the late-night flight from Chicago to San Francisco, Patricia let her eyes close for a moment, already imagining the long, deep sleep she would get once she reached her sister's apartment. The big Boeing 777 was almost completely full, as usual for the 11:47 p.m. flight, mostly filled with business travelers and those trying to squeeze the most time out of their schedules. Patricia had picked the window seat not for the view. She planned to sleep through the whole trip, but because it gave her the best chance to rest without anyone climbing over her. As more people filed in, she noticed the mix of passengers: business people juggling phones and bags, college kids with heavy backpacks and tired eyes, and parents trying to soothe restless children. The seat next to her was still empty as the last of the passengers boarded, and she felt a small hope that she might end up with the row to herself. That hope ended when a man appeared in the aisle just before the flight attendants began shutting the cabin door. He looked about 40, dressed sharply in a casual but professional way, and his clean look and smooth smile gave the sense of someone used to dealing with people. "Excuse me," he said, holding up his boarding pass to check the seat numbers. "I think I'm in 14B, right next to you." Patricia smiled politely, moving her things so he could sit down. He slid his carry-on into the overhead compartment and settled in, making light conversation about how late the flight was and how tiring red-eyes could be. He spoke in a way that was kind but not too pushy, and Patricia appreciated that he seemed to know the unspoken rule: keep it short and let people rest. "I'm Robert, by the way," he said with a nod after fastening his seatbelt. "Business trip to San Francisco?" "Patricia," she answered, "visiting family." As the plane pulled back from the gate, Robert pulled out a tablet and tapped through some files, giving the impression he would be working through the flight. Patricia leaned back, pulled on her mask, and relaxed as the engine's steady hum and the dim lights created just the right setting for her to drift off. She had been asleep for maybe 40 minutes when a light touch on her shoulder woke her. Lifting her mask, she saw Robert looking at her with an apologetic expression. "I'm really sorry to wake you," he said softly. 3 other passengers had already told airport staff about being approached in a similar way, but this was the first time anyone had actually been taken into this private room. The place was supposed to be fully secure. One guard mentioned that either Rebecca had help from someone inside or she had very advanced tools to copy badges. Thomas finally realized just how close he had been to real danger. She hadn't only wanted his credit cards or wallet, she had chosen him because of the important business files he was carrying. This was not a random scam. It was spying made to look like airport fraud. When security checked further, they saw Rebecca's badge look completely genuine. Without an electronic scan, nobody could tell it was fake. Video also showed her walking up to many stranded travelers that night, each time picking people who looked stressed or upset. Thomas finally got on a flight the next morning, but his meeting was delayed by 36 hours. Thankfully, when he explained the truth about what happened at the airport, his client in Chicago gave him more time, and his company still managed to win the deal. But the event changed the way Thomas looked at airports from then on. The official report confirmed Rebecca had escaped through an emergency exit that led to a parking garage. Cameras caught her getting into a car, but the license plates were covered. She was never caught, and investigators thought she had already moved on to other airports, searching for new victims. For weeks after that, Thomas found himself checking every airline employee who spoke to him, looking carefully at their ID badges and questioning their requests, even when they seemed ordinary. He could not get over how someone could appear so official and still be completely fake. Later, the larger investigation showed that Rebecca's plan was not just about stealing from passengers. She had been collecting company information from business travelers for months. By pretending to rebook tickets, she got her hands on sensitive files and then sold them to competitors or even foreign groups. Thomas never discovered if she had been working on her own or as part of a bigger network. But what he learned was that airports, no matter how many rules and checks they showed, were still places where criminals studied travelers as carefully as businesses studied their customers. So to Rebecca, wherever you are now, still walking airport hallways with your flawless fake badge and confident smile, tricking travelers with your routine, know this: your disguise will not protect you forever. Let us never meet again. Music. Patricia Williams had never felt this tired in all of her 29 years as a nurse. The last 3 weeks had been nothing but long shifts at Chicago General Hospital, where flu season and staff shortages had pushed every worker far past their limits. At last, she sank into seat 14A on the overnight flight from Chicago to San Francisco, closing her eyes and already imagining the long hours of rest she would get once she reached her sister's place. The large Boeing 777 was nearly full, as usual for the 11:47 p.m. flight, filled with business travelers and people trying to make the most of their time. Patricia had picked the window seat not for the view — she planned to sleep the whole way — but because it gave her the best chance of being left alone. As passengers boarded, she noticed the mix of travelers: business people juggling phones and luggage, college students with heavy bags and sleepy faces, and parents calming restless kids. The seat beside her stayed empty as boarding went on, and she began to hope she might have the row to herself. That hope ended when a man walked up just before the cabin doors closed. He looked about 40, dressed neatly in business casual clothes, with tidy hair and a polished smile that suggested he dealt with people often. "Excuse me," he said, showing his boarding pass and checking the numbers. "Looks like I'm in 14B, right next to you." Patricia smiled and moved her things so he could sit. He placed his carry-on above and sat down, making light comments about the late departure and how tough red-eye flights could be. His tone was friendly but not too much, and Patricia liked that he seemed to understand the rule of overnight flights. Keep it short and let others rest. "I'm Robert, by the way," he added after buckling his belt. "Business trip to San Francisco." "Patricia," she answered, "visiting family." As the plane backed away from the gate, Robert took out a tablet and started working through files, looking ready to spend the flight on business. Patricia leaned back, slid on her mask, and relaxed while the steady noise of the engines and the dim lights made the perfect setting to drift off. She had been asleep for maybe 40 minutes when a gentle tap on her shoulder woke her. Lifting the mask, she found Robert looking at her with an apologetic smile. "I'm really sorry to wake you," he said quietly. She realized that people like Robert watched and studied their targets the same way she carefully studied medical cases, searching for weak points and ways to take advantage of kindness and trust. Months later, when Patricia finally took her delayed trip to visit her sister, she traveled with a stronger sense of how personal details could be used against her by people who wanted to cause harm. She had learned to be careful of strangers who seemed too friendly, to hold back her private details, and to pay attention to her instincts whenever something felt wrong. The situation also showed her how new technology and social media had created easy hunting grounds for people who could learn everything about their victims before ever meeting them. Robert's careful mix of online watching and in-person tricks showed how predators had grown more advanced, while police were still working to understand and stop them. For Patricia, the most troubling part was not Robert's crimes, but how easily her caring nature had been used against her. His fake story about sitting with an anxious wife had tapped into her nursing instincts and her wish to comfort others. From this, she learned that being kind did not mean making herself vulnerable, and that keeping herself safe from people like him was not selfish but necessary. She began to check stories before agreeing to help strangers, to always guard her belongings, even in safe spaces, and to trust her professional instincts when someone's words and actions did not match. Years later, Patricia became a voice for traveler, safety, and privacy, speaking at events about how predators use social media and personal information to target strangers. She explained that the best defense against these skilled criminals was knowing their methods and having the courage to put safety above politeness. Her message to travelers was straightforward and vital. Real requests for help never require personal details, and anyone who knows too much about your life without reason is a danger, not a friend. Air travel should be safe, not a place where people are hunted with practiced precision. So to Robert, wherever you sit in prison or plan your next scam with fake names and false stories, the skies are not yours to hunt in, and your research cannot save you from the punishment you deserve. Let us never meet again. Michelle Thompson had finally reached her limit with airline delays. The 26-year-old high school history teacher from Portland had been stuck at Denver International Airport for 8 hours because strong thunderstorms had shut down flights across the Rocky Mountain area. Her connecting flight to Boston, where she was supposed to speak at a teaching conference the next morning, had been canceled along with dozens of others, leaving hundreds of angry passengers scattered through the terminal like victims of a travel disaster. The gate area looked like a crowded camp, families spread out on the floor, using coats and carry-ons as beds. Business travelers bent over laptops, trying to save meetings or rebook their schedules. Children cried on and off while parents tried to stay calm, though no one was fooled. The air conditioning could not keep up with the body heat of so many stranded people, leaving the place hot and making everyone's irritation worse. Michelle had found a spot near gate B32 where she had been sitting for 3 hours after learning her hotel voucher was useless. Every nearby hotel was already filled by other stranded travelers. The 24-hour restaurants in the airport had run out of most food by 2 a.m., leaving only overpriced snack bars and vending machines that mocked the hungry with their few expensive choices. At 3:17 a.m., as Michelle half slept in an uncomfortable plastic chair with her purse held tightly against her chest, a man in maintenance coveralls walked toward her part of the gate. He looked to be in his 50s, with hands that showed years of hard work and a face that carried the tired steadiness of someone used to long night shifts. His coveralls had the Denver International Airport logo, and he carried a toolbox that looked well used. A badge on a cord hung from his chest pocket, though in the dim light Michelle could not read it clearly. "Excuse me, miss," he said softly, careful not to wake the sleeping passengers nearby. "I notice you have been here quite a while. Are you stuck because of the weather delays?" Michelle looked up from her small space on the floor, glad for a human voice that was not full of complaints or arguments. His tone was kind and understanding, a welcome change from the stress she had heard all night. "8 hours and counting," Michelle answered, stretching her sore muscles. "My flight to Boston was canceled. There's nothing available until tomorrow afternoon." The man's name tag said Carl. He shook his head, looking sorry. "These delays are terrible. The airlines barely do anything, and then passengers are left in spaces never meant for overnight stays." Michelle felt grateful someone truly understood. Most airport staff she met had given her empty apologies and passed the blame. Carl seemed to see the human side of what was happening. "The thing is," Carl went on, glancing around the busy gate, "we have employee rest areas most passengers never hear about. Technically, they're not for travelers, but in times like this, some of us let people in who really need real rest. Michelle felt a small spark of hope for the first time that night. The thought of lying down on something better than a plastic chair felt like heaven. Really? She asked. That would be amazing. I have a presentation tomorrow and just need a few hours of real sleep. Carl nodded. It's nothing fancy, just plain bunks and a couple of vending machines. But it's quiet and much better than out here with all this noise. Michelle quickly gathered her things as Carl explained the area was in a part of the airport meant only for employees. I can get you in, no problem, he told her. I've worked here 15 years. I know which spots are checked and which aren't. They walked away from the gate, past dark shops and empty seats, into a side of the airport Michelle had never seen. The hallways grew plainer, with white walls, buzzing fluorescent lights, and signs that read, "Restricted access." Is it much farther? Michelle asked, exhausted but pulled forward by the thought of sleep. Just around this corner, Carl said, swiping his card at another locked door. It was made for night crews originally. They entered a hallway lined with storage and utility rooms. The smell of cleaners and machinery filled the air. Michelle noticed they had not met any other workers, though Carl had said the night team was always around. Where is everyone? She asked, starting to feel uneasy about how empty it was. Carl stopped at another door, this one marked only with a small sign that read, "Employee Break Room." He slid his card but paused. Night crew's small, he explained. Most are fixing weather damage. This part stays empty. He opened the door and Michelle immediately saw something was wrong. The room did not look like a rest area at all. Instead of bunks and vending machines, there was one folding chair, a metal table, and walls covered with screens and cameras. This isn't a rest area, Michelle said, stepping back toward the door. Carl's look changed in an instant. The friendly worker was gone, replaced by eyes that were cold and sharp. He blocked her path, his stance now threatening. You're right, he said flatly. This isn't a rest area. This is where I bring people who trust too easily. Michelle's thoughts raced as she realized the trap. Carl had used her tiredness and desperation, offering what she needed most to pull her away. His uniform, key card, and calm knowledge of the airport had made her trust him without question. What do you want? She asked, trying to sound steady while her heart pounded. Carl smiled, but it held no kindness. I want you to see how airports are filled with tired people who make bad choices. You followed a stranger because he offered you comfort. How many others do you think have done the same? Michelle knew then he had done this before. His sure steps, his smooth lies, and this hidden room proved it. The cameras, she said quickly, pointing to the walls. Security will see us. Carl laughed. Those aren't airport feeds. They're mine. I like watching passengers, studying them, choosing who to target. Michelle felt sick. He was no random predator. He had built a whole system to watch and trap victims. But then Michelle heard something outside. Voices echoing down the hallway, keys jingling, footsteps drawing closer. Maintenance sweep, a woman's voice called. All staff report for shift change. Carl's confident face cracked. They're early, he muttered. Shift change isn't for another hour. Michelle did not wait. She screamed as loud as she could, hoping someone heard. Instantly, footsteps rushed closer and someone banged on the door. Security! A man shouted. Open this door now! Carl cursed and turned toward a back exit Michelle had not noticed before. This isn't over, he hissed. I know your flight. I know where you live. Before she could move, the main door burst open. 3 airport security officers rushed in, followed by a woman in a supervisor's uniform. Carl disappeared through the back, but the officers chased him while one stayed with Michelle. Are you hurt? he asked quickly, looking around at the strange equipment in her shaking body. Michelle dropped into the folding chair, her legs unable to stand. I'm okay, she said, but Carl tricked me. He said there was a rest area. He's been watching passengers. The supervisor stared at the equipment with alarm. This is not airport property, she said. Someone has been running an illegal surveillance system in our restricted spaces. The investigation revealed Carl's full setup. His equipment could link into airport cameras and passenger databases. He had used his access for months to track travelers, keeping profiles on them. On his computer, police found files on dozens of passengers, especially women traveling alone, with notes about their flights, gates, and even hotel bookings. He had mainly preyed on stranded travelers during delays, when people were most desperate. The room Michelle entered was not his only one. Authorities found 3 more secret rooms, each with gear watching busy airport areas. Carl himself was caught trying to escape through the maintenance tunnels. He had been a worker for 12 years, slowly building his hidden network while looking like a normal employee. Police later learned he had attacked at least 6 passengers in 2 years. Some victims had stayed silent from fear or shame, and others who spoke up were ignored, since Carl's badge and uniform made him look trustworthy. Michelle's choice to scream for help when she heard the maintenance sweep had not only saved her from an attack, but also uncovered a bigger problem that showed serious flaws in airport security. The case pushed airports to change how they checked employees entering restricted areas and how they handled background checks for staff with access to sensitive places. Michelle's story showed that predators could use real authority and trusted positions to create traps in places passengers believed were safe. For Michelle, the event changed how she thought about travel and safety. She understood that tiredness and stress could weaken good judgment, making even smart, educated people easy targets for those who knew how to manipulate human psychology. The conference talk she was supposed to give was delayed, but later she spoke at many safety events, sharing her story. Her message was clear. People should always question authority figures who offer help that seems too convenient or involves being taken away from public spaces. She reminded travelers that real airport workers would never lead passengers into private areas without proper permission and oversight. Actual rest areas for staff always had rules and safety measures and would never include hidden rooms filled with secret equipment. In the years that followed, Michelle became a strong voice for better airport training and awareness programs for travelers. She worked with police to teach others how to recognize suspicious behavior and helped build steps for reporting shady actions by airport staff. Her experience with Carl showed her that predators often study their victims closely, sometimes even more than victims pay attention to them. She learned the best protection against skilled criminals was knowing their tricks and trusting instincts when something felt off, even when tiredness and stress made the offer of help sound too good to resist. The closed-off tunnels and restricted areas of airports might look like spaces only real workers would use, but Michelle discovered that the most dangerous people often wore real uniforms and used real badges, hiding their traps in plain sight where passengers felt safe. So to Carl, wherever you are now, whether serving time or planning something new with another disguise and false authority, your tools were built for planes, not for people, and your access cannot protect you from the justice you earned. Let us never meet again. Dr. James Morrison had never felt more crushed in his 38 years of emergency medicine. The medical conference in San Antonio ended with the rejection of his research paper, ending his chances at tenure at the university hospital. Now waiting outside baggage claim at San Antonio Airport at 11:23 p.m., he faced the added misery of missing his connecting flight to Chicago because of storms. The gate agent had given him the bad news with little care. The next flight was not until 2:47 p.m. the following afternoon. That meant 15 hours in an airport hotel, plenty of time to think about how his career was falling apart, despite all the years he had worked sleepless nights in the trauma bay. As James stood waiting for the shuttle the airline had promised, his phone buzzed with another text from his wife, asking when he would arrive. He was supposed to be home for his daughter's play at 7 p.m. the next night, but even with the afternoon flight, he would miss it. The guilt of letting down his family on top of his job disappointment was almost too heavy to bear. After 40 minutes in the sticky Texas heat, James saw that the shuttle was not coming. Other stranded passengers had already given up and left, either by rideshare or walking to ground transport. James finally pulled out his phone and ordered an Uber to the Marriott by the airport, hoping to salvage what was left of his terrible trip. The app showed a fare of $42 and an 8-minute wait for the short drive. As he waited at the rideshare pickup zone, watching the late-night traffic chaos, a man approached him quickly, looking like he belonged. "Dr. Morrison?" the man asked, holding a phone that displayed what looked like a rideshare app. "I'm Vincent, your Uber driver. Sorry I'm late. Traffic here has been awful." Vincent looked about 40, dressed neatly in khakis and a polo shirt, presenting himself like an ordinary working man. His car was running right in front of the terminal, with rideshare stickers in the back window. It was clean and professional, just what James expected. "That was faster than the app said," James remarked, relieved. "It told me 8 minutes." Vincent smiled kindly. "GPS was off because of construction. I know the shortcuts. Been working this airport 3 years. Let me grab your bag." He loaded the suitcase in the trunk and made small talk just like any other driver would, complaining about airport traffic, mentioning delays, asking James if he was in San Antonio for work or fun. It felt completely normal. James relaxed in the passenger seat, thankful something was finally going right. Vincent drove off smoothly, navigating construction and traffic lights like he knew them by heart. "Hotel's close," Vincent said. "We'll be there in 15 minutes if lights are good." But after 20 minutes, James realized they were moving away from the airport instead of toward it. The area outside the window didn't look right, and his phone's map showed they were heading southeast, not north where the hotels were. "I think we're going the wrong way," James said, checking his phone. "The hotel is north of the airport." Vincent gave him a quick glance in the mirror, sounding annoyed. "GPS is off again. Construction messes it up. Trust me, I know a faster way." James felt uneasy. Every driver he'd had before relied on GPS and wanted to avoid customer complaints. Ignoring it felt strange. "Can you show me your route on the app?" James asked. "I'd like to see how much longer." Vincent's hands gripped the wheel. "The app's glitching tonight. Probably too many delays on the system. Don't worry, I'll get you there." James shifted slightly, trying the door handle as if stretching. It moved but stayed locked tight. A chill spread through him. Child locks were on. "Why are the doors locked?" James asked, voice tense. Vincent's tone changed instantly. The friendly act was gone, replaced by cold seriousness. "Because passengers panic when they realize they're not going where they thought." James felt fear rush through him with sharp clarity, like diagnosing a critical patient. Vincent was not an Uber driver. This was no real rideshare. "Who are you?" James demanded, grabbing for his phone. Vincent laughed, empty of warmth. "Someone who knows when to take advantage. Stranded passengers with valuables are perfect targets if you study them enough." James felt dread rise. Vincent had been watching airport traffic, picking delayed travelers desperate for rides. People unlikely to question the details. The friendly look, the airport knowledge, even the traffic talk had all been carefully planned. "What do you want?" James asked, trying to steady his voice and think of a way out. "I want your medical credentials, your hospital logins, and your credit cards, Vincent answered calmly. Doctors are great targets. High credit, sensitive access. James realized this was not chance. Vincent had targeted him on purpose, knowing who he was before approaching him. Using his name, appearing at the right time, acting with complete confidence, it was all prepared. James checked his phone, but it showed no signal. He guessed Vincent had some device blocking calls. They kept driving into darker, emptier roads, further from people. But then, as they stopped at a red light, James spotted Hope, a police cruiser parked at the intersection, watching late-night traffic. Without hesitation, James slammed his hand on the horn again and again, waving wildly toward the police. Vincent cursed and tried to pull James's hand away, but it was already too late.